and let me tell you a little bit about what's on my little mind. you know, it's funerals aren't funny, but sometimes things happen at funerals that are funny, and you have all to do not to laugh. It's the hardest thing in the world when you want to laugh at the most inappropriate time. Well, a few weeks ago, I was doing a funeral, and there were three graves to the right of the open grave. And on the mitzvah, on the tombstone, was inscribed the words on the top, Pei Nun, which stands for Here Lies. Then it had Morris Kaplan, and then Morris Moshe ben Yecheskel Halevi. Okay, so far, not funny. And the next is even less funny, but it's very meaningful. He was born, it says, January 21st, 1909. I'm sorry, 1901 to January 30th, 2006. And that's interesting. That's a long time, but he was born on on the first of Shabbat, first of the month of Shabbat, 5661, and he died on the first of Shabbat, 5766. He died on his 105th Hebrew birthday. That is amazing. Whenever I see somebody dies on their birthday, I'm reminded that anyone who dies on their birthday must have been a special person, because that's what the sages taught us. And this is because Moshe died on his birthday, when he was 120. But seeing the grave of someone who lived 105 years and died on his birthday, you got to admit it's fascinating. It really is. But that's not funny. Just wait a minute, there's more. What came after the dates and what came after the dates, I had all to do to keep my composure. I couldn't help myself. After all, I was there to help a family who was really sad and they were suffering from their loss. What in the world would I be doing laughing at a time like that? It's just not right. I had all to do not to laugh, and I didn't. I held it in until after the funeral, and then after everybody was gone, I was hysterical. You can only imagine. I'd like to know how you would react to this. At the bottom of the mitzvah, it was engraved, 105-year-old man dies, only the good die young. I was hysterical. 105, only the good die young, it says. Not only that, an explanation point appeared both before and after the words. So you can only imagine what any person with any kind of sense of humor would be thinking. Then I thought that maybe that saying was there because the family thought he should have lived longer. Or maybe he lived much longer than anyone wanted him to live. I have no idea why it was there, but I was dying inside. I got to remind, I know if there's anybody here who never saw The Wizard of Oz, I would be shocked. But the movie The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy found herself in a tornado, and it transported her from her black and white farmhouse in Kansas to the colorful over the rainbow land of Oz. There she met three characters who would travel with her to see the Wizard of Oz, who they told her would be able to send her back home. So the three characters were the lion, who wanted courage, the scarecrow, who wanted a brain, And the Tin Man, the character who needed a heart or a soul. By the way, I played the Tin Man in the senior play in my high school, and I have to tell you, um, everybody thought I was typecast at the time. Today I can cry at the top of the hat, but back then you couldn't get me to cry no matter what. But they all thought I was typecast as the wizard of, as the Tin Man. Anyway, the fact is, all mammals have a heart, and all humans, even though it doesn't always seem that way, have a soul. That said, does anyone think that houses have a soul? Does anyone think that? Of course not. They don't. Oops. So, the fact is, all mammals have a heart, and all humans, even though it does not always seem that way, have a soul, as I said. But houses, do they have a soul? Do they have a heart? Do they have a brain? Do they have courage? If a rusting object made of tin can develop a soul, why not a house? Why not a nation? So, as we discussed last week, this Shabbat's Torah reading tells us that a person must go to a Kohen to determine if they suffer from the plague of Tzura'at. Tzura'at is usually mistranslated as leprosy, but it is clearly not, since it is so easily cured. Anyway, if the Kohen had diagnosed the presenting skin blemish as Tzura'at, as the condition continued to develop, the Kohen was required to continuously monitor the situation and take care of it. This was the job of the Kohen. The Kohen has to diagnose the presenting skin blemish as Tzura'at as the condition continued to develop. The Kohen was required to continuously inspect anyone who had it. Didn't matter who it was. Had to stay there and watch. And in the land of Oz, maybe the wizard could have done something like that. Except for one thing. The characters had their brain, their courage, and their soul, and the hearts and soul all along. They didn't need it. They always had it. They didn't know it. But the Tzura'at comes blemishes on the skin, and the Kohen sees it and takes care of it. So what does this Torah reading tell us about it? The very complex details of the purification process, and that is required for the skin to clear. This ritual requires 2 birds. They have to be kosher. 2 kosher birds, a piece of cedar wood, red wool, crimson wool, and a hyssop branch, a branch from a tree, a hyssop tree. So one bird is slaughtered, and the other bird is freed to fly away to leave the city. However, this is only the beginning of the purification process that will wind up lasting 8 full days. And it ends with a guilt offering being brought to the Holy Temple, no matter how clear the skin was or for how long it was clear, unless the Kohen completed this 8-day process, a person could not be declared ritually clean. By the way, you don't bring a sin offering if you're sick. You bring a sin offering because you did something wrong. So you got to remember in the movie, The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy found herself in a tornado that transported her back in black and white, as I said, to the farmhouse in Kansas, to the colorful world of Oz. And that's how it was. Um, but wait, there's more. It says in the Torah that for this, for Tzarat, it says in verse 13:3 in Vayikra, quote, if a person shall have in the skin a swelling, a scab, or a bright or white spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh, that is tzara'at. That is not leprosy. You can't cure leprosy with what I told you before. No way. But in Vayikra 14:34, another verse, when you come to the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as an inheritance, when you're in the land of Israel, I will put Tzara'at there. This appears to be a much different process now, because notice that humans can get Tzara'at anywhere they happen to be. They can be in Teaneck, they could be in Monroe Township, they could be in Princeton, they could be in California, they could be in Israel. But it can be any. But the house that's plagued with Tzara'at can only happen within the borders of Israel. Why is this limited to houses located in Eretz Yisrael? Tzara'at can be on the house, but only in Eretz Yisrael. So wait a minute now. There's still more. We also see that there are differences in these two disease states. Regarding the human, the Torah talks of a white discoloration on the skin. But if there is a white spot on the house, there's nothing wrong. That's not Tzara'at. It says in Vayikra 14:36 through 37, then the Kohen shall command that they empty the house. Everybody has to go out and everything has to come out. And the Kohen shall look at the plague, and behold, if the plague be in the walls and consists of penetrating streaks that are bright green or bright red. So if you or I get Tzara'at, if you or I get it, bright green or bright red is for the house, white is for me and you. There's no mention of a white blemish, only green or red. And that is another reason why we cannot translate Tzara'at as leprosy. When was the last time you saw leprosy attack a house? It doesn't. So that is why the most respected Torah commentators through the ages, including the Ramban in the 12th century, to Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch in the 19th century, were unanimous that Tzara'at cannot possibly be an illness in a medical sense. It's just not. On the other hand, whoops, I don't know what I'm doing here. On the other hand, why do we understand what the Torah says as a medical condition that only a Kohen, not a doctor, can treat? Why would we understand it that way? Nobody should think that. Kohanim were priests. They're not trained in medicine. They're not doctors. They were teachers. They were practitioners of sacrifices. And they did other religious traditions and helped people with those. But one thing is for sure, they never went to medical school. Not at all. Not those Kohanim. Which is probably a good thing, because today the medical schools like Harvard and so on, very anti-Semitic, and maybe it's good they didn't go there. But Tzara'at is not a medical illness. It is a spiritual condition that is easier for the uninformed to understand as a medical disease. So people read it and they go, oh, that must be leprosy. No, it's not. If it was a medical issue, then why would the Torah go into such detail about that one, Tzara'at, and never mention anything else? It never mentions pneumonia or influenza or arthritis. Why not call the Kohen to cure arthritis? I have news for you. If any of our Kohanim could cure arthritis, then everybody's saying, "Oy Gewalt, I wish they could." Halavai. But if they could, the entire world would become Jewish right away, just so they could have their arthritis cured. So what is Tzara'at? It is a way to represent the state of the human soul. The cause of Tzara'at, believe it or not, is Lashon Hara, evil talk, gossip. If you are practicing evil talk, you will get Tzara'at. Since each one of us has a soul, then the combined souls of each member of our families are tied together somehow. You know, a mother, a father, and the children and the siblings. We all have a common connection. We're tied together. Where? In the home that we share. That's where it is. So in the case of Tzara'at, the walls of the family's house reflects what the family does in the house. A house can feel warm with open arms, or can be cold and unwelcoming. A loving house appears open and welcoming, but an angry house appears closed and inhospitable. A home can be bright with life, oozing with hospitalities and Jewishness, doorposts with mezuzot, a menorah, Jewish art on the walls, well-used Jewish books on the shelves, not to mention food on the table. And if there's gribbiness there is no question about what it is, that it's a Jewish home. Who else would put gribbiness on the table? So, as I said, Tzara'at is not a medical thing. It is a spiritual thing. So now it's possible to understand how this spiritual condition is connected to the land of Israel. Unlike the wilderness, it is the homeland of Am Yisrael, the people Israel. Yes, Eretz Yisrael is really Beit Yisrael, or the house of Israel. That is why Tzara'at can attack individuals wherever they may be, but only the homes that are in the homeland. So yes, when there is mutual love and shared responsibility in our homes, then the houses will be blessed. And its walls will never be covered with the green and red condition that we call Tzara'at. So as long as we Jews welcome our God into our homes, then Beit Yisrael will forever be blessed. Living any other way invites Tzara'at to attack. So after thinking about Tzara'at in this way, if the family of that 105-year-old Morris Kaplan spent so much extra money to have explanation point, only the good die young, explanation point, engraved on his mitzvah, you know what? I have to believe that Moshe ben Yecheskel HaLevi lived a most exemplary Jewish life. He was too good, and he died too soon. That is why his family wanted everyone to know that even after living 105 years, he had left them much too soon. So may we all live long lives in a way that our families feel compelled to honor us in much the same way. But wait, there's one more thing, and I don't understand it. Under the explanation point, only the good die young explanation point, they added one more line. What did the line say? No visitors allowed. So you see why I had such a hard time